Can you kill that dryer? All right. All right. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. I'm DJ Impact, and I got some of the Vegas Bad Boys here with us tonight. So a couple of things just to get started. Christmas Eve, there was a winner that won $15 million from Suncoast Casino. And in the photo, he was holding the big check normally that they give you for the celebration over his face. We believe that particular person is probably King Lucky. We believe that, yes. He's a person that believes he got that magic touch, and he probably had it that night. And he's living 15 million bills larger right now. So hopefully we see him. I don't know. We may not see him again. Maybe he's got his own new podcast he's going to create.
From the strip clubs,
right? And then Simon Street. He's not with us tonight, but he just let us know that he does have a doctor visit with Dr. Britt Baker. So, yeah, you're not going to miss that appointment. I mean, come on.
Right?
Yeah. The
right.
Penalties for that is Reba. Okay. So, anyway, everyone, welcome to the sort of post-holiday. We're still in holiday time right now, but a lot has been going on, and we hope that you enjoy the show today. We're going to do a little wrestling talk. We're going to give you what we believe our top matches this year were, or top wrestling moments. Also, we'll kind of give you who we think should be maybe the best wrestler, maybe worst wrestler of the year. We will also have a memorial. As many of you know, some very sad news came down this past weekend with John Huber, known as Brody Lee or Luke Harper. And we're going to get into that later on in the show. So please just hang out with us tonight. We guaranteed to make this somewhat exciting for you. And then we will get to all of the sort of the sadness that we had earlier during this year. It's been a tough year, guys, but we made it through it. And I think we are going to, believe it or not, we're going to have a really good year in 2021. So think positive. Let's start with a little bit of wrestling talk with WWE Raw this past week. Was there anything that stood out to you guys at all? Is Raw still going down that slope of what the hell's going on, or have a complete stop been made and you see it going back into the right direction?
Michaels, do you want to take this?
Very, very simply put, uneventful. Let's put it this way. Obviously, Raw is not the main focus, but two interesting things. One, the Alexa Bliss Randy Orton promo was golden.
It was.
Agreed.
Just period. It was golden.
Yeah.
That was great. Number two, we've talked now for 2 fucking straight weeks about how Keith Lee is being buried by Vince McMahon.
Right.
Well, if that's being buried, my friends, I would gladly like to be 6 feet under by Vince McMahon in his book of burying, because it's a very unique way to bury someone, by having them get a pinfall in the main fucking event of Raw. I don't know. It just seems a little odd to me. I don't know. And that's the thing. It was great to see that.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that there was all this fucking hustle and bustle about this. And it's like, it just goes to show that if you've never done it, you don't know what the fuck is going on.
Right.
And all these people who make money by reporting this shit, or these people who fucking call themselves journalists or, write for these websites. They have one goal: making advertising fucking money by clicks.
Right.
That is it. These fuckers don't know shit.
Yeah. Well, and maybe, and I don't want to sound like I'm justifying them at all, because you do make a good point of that. But maybe in their mind, Vince McMahon has a record of just how he treats individuals, and they just saw this going downhill. They didn't see this to be a positive, despite the fact that what we seeing it is. So they jumped the gun and just thought Vince was going to be how Vince normally is, but that was not the case here. So sometimes I guess it's just kind of best to wait to see how it's turning out before you you start shooting your foot.
Yeah, and don't classify something as a demotion when it's not a fucking demotion. There was never any verbiage or anything that implied anything other than these guys are going through some extra training. Sure. That's it. Polish their work up. What the fuck is the problem with having some of these guys go through the process of having extra ring work and becoming a little bit better? Nothing.
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking about Raw as a whole, I know that we're going to be giving out awards later, but without question, because it's topical, WWE Raw is getting my award for worst weekly show. Period. Dude.
Yeah.
3 hours that I can never have back every week.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an Alexa Bliss segment. Maybe the Fiend shows up. Maybe there's an occasional bright spot other than them.
Right.
But
AJ and Keith Lee. I think
AJ and Keith Lee. Okay, so right there, you've got a handful of talents out of the roster of what, 50 on Raw.
I mean, you know what? Riddle's doing a fairly good job too, from someone who came up and apparently could be buried. Anytime that you get to team with Jeff Hardy, that's pretty decent. So,
again, as you said, if what's happening with Riddle is getting buried, then sign me up for that, because I want to sign a $12 million contract to get buried. Right. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, that's all true.
Yeah. You know what? I think that, listen, if they are going to start an uptick in Raw, I think what they actually need to do, and this is something that I've been critical of AEW for, and that is they're not using the younger talent the right way. And I think if you make Raw, because SmackDown needs to be your commercial success because of Fox. If you make Raw your younger, hipper product, then maybe you can draw in at least that demo of the younger, 19 to 49 crowd. And really put those guys over. Some of those guys from NXT, when they come up, have them go to Raw and really establish that show as, change it up a bit, stop, different graphics, make fucking things flashier, interactive, whatever you can do to gear it towards a younger audience. And when I say younger, I don't mean 5, 6, 7-year-olds. You're going to be, if you can influence through a cool hip product now those kids into believing it's cool and hip, then when they become 14, 15, 16, they might stay watching the product. You might not lose that gap that generally, when people go to high school and college, you lose a gap for a while.
True.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that you brought it up, actually, Michaels. There are more people are watching AEW Dynamite in the 18 to 49 range than are watching Monday Night Raw. Yep. The numbers don't lie. It's absolutely insane. When WWE Raw, which has been on the air for 30 years, has this known and trusted name, and it's It's a staple. Monday, you watch wrestling. That's just how it is. That's how it's been for years. And now we're seeing more and more younger people skipping Raw and instead watching Dynamite, or not even factoring in Dynamite. It's just that they've lost that younger audience that just so happens to be resonating with an AEW product.
So the most you're onto this path that I think is very comparable, because the only television show right now that you can compare it to really is The Simpsons. And The Simpsons have gone through the same thing. Right now, that show, as appealing as it still might be to someone like myself, is not necessarily appealing to a younger audience. And you're investing so much money into these performers. These guys are getting $1 million a show. So the idea here is it's a steady horse for Fox to have The Simpsons on Sundays. And that show can be on as long as the performers and the creators and, you know, everyone wants to keep doing it. And in this case, that's why I say WWE doesn't have to worry about Raw, because if USA says, hey, you're not generating the same thing, another station's going to give them a contract. Right. And it might not be the same deal, but it would be enough deal to leverage into a new contract like they did with TNN back in the day. And so you really rebuild that audience a little bit, make USA go, oh shit, what did we do? And then grab it, you know, back when it comes up again. So, you know, who knows? Listen, we all know that Vince McMahon has a reputation for killing his own creations. Could it be that as Vince is getting older, maybe it's just that he's basically doing his instinctual thing of killing something that he created? Who knows?
Crazy if that was the case.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. Oh boy.
Sure. But, you know, I mean, there are crazy people in this world, including one guy named Ryback, who apparently thinks that Vince is very ill and hopes that Vince gets better so he could kick Vince's ass, even though Vince was the guy who made Ryback any kind of name.
Right.
He didn't do it himself. And now I got a feeling if this ever gets back to Ryback, I cannot safely walk around Las Vegas without getting my ass kicked by that monster. So
I was one day I was flying. I think I was actually flying to a WrestleMania. I want to say one of the ones out in Florida they've had, and I ended up being on the same plane as him. So I didn't want to say them because he is a big guy. I didn't want to. So I just, walk right past. But but yeah, I know what you mean though. Being that he's a local. Let's
yeah, I mean, and anyone, I'll encourage anyone who, if you're in the Vegas area and you see him, just go ahead and just say, hey, how's it going, Goldberg?
Oh shit.
I am pretty fucking dead if
yeah.
You're on your own.
You are.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
So
yeah. Literally, I walk across the street when you say that.
Yeah.
Why cars are coming? I'm just quickly trying to dodge my way to the other side of the street.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'll still record it while it's going on and post it to the Vegas Bad Boys YouTube. But you're on your own. Sorry.
Right.
Hey, listen, bro. Any publicity is publicity.
Yeah.
Ending up in the hospital.
That's right. Oh man. Well, with that, I'll jump over quickly just to ROH. They did, I guess, after the final battle, they ran a show that weekend. There was a Brian Johnson versus Dalton Castle match, and then there was a Rhett Titus. I guess finally defeating longtime rival Delirious in a pure rules match. And that right there was actually a really good match to check out. ROH, I'll have to say it almost every week. they're back and they're doing great. They're looking great. If you can, try to give them a good look. I record them. I guess they come on 2 different stations, but NBC is one of the stations that record it. So yeah,
it's just to let you know, the reason it's on NBC here is because it is owned, and I only found this out a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Because of ROH, and that is Sinclair Broadcasting is the company that has the deal with ROH. Sinclair in Las Vegas owns our NBC affiliate.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's on here on NBC. It's also not only on 2 channels, but it is on about, I believe it's 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically on every Sinclair Broadcasting channel that is out here.
Got you. So folks, look it up. I mean, you may have access to it and don't know it, and if not, there's always the Honor Club, which you can join. But it's just worth checking out. Really good stuff, and they
Fight TV as well. If you have
you
get the $4.99 subscription of Fight TV, you can access the new episodes as well.
Absolutely. Let's jump over into WWE NXT for this week. They never fail to do a bad job, and I tell you, the Gargano segment has had me. The Gargano way, right? Dude, great stuff. I mean, it's entertaining. This is what you look forward to when you watch it, you know. Andy getting a PS5. I thought you were like, wow, you get a PS5. He's like, oh, she's like, it's empty. He's like, oh, well, I took the actual gaming console out. You don't need that.
But you gained the nickname.
Right.
Indie wrestling.
Indie wrestling. That is just great.
Oh my God. I did. My dad happened to be sitting down while I was watching it, and so we see Johnny takes the cookies away from Austin Theory, right?
Right.
And then you come back to the next segment where Indy gets the PlayStation, and Austin takes a bite out of a cookie. My dad goes, "Where'd he get the cookie? How do you get it back?" Like, that's the brilliance of this.
Right.
Oh my God. Drinking, literally take the picture. He's eating the fucking whey protein straight out of the container. It's fucking brilliant, man.
Yes.
Oh, there was so much in there, man.
I mean, let me ask you. So I'm sure NXT has, I'm sure it has its writers, but is Gargano part of creating some of this, or he's just a great actor? I mean, you think he improvised any of this, or?
I would assume that there was improv going on with those guys.
Yeah.
First of all, here's the thing: when you have defined characters that especially are persona of you, then you don't have any problem playing them.
Right. That's true.
Right. So, and the fact that Candice and him are married, and this is an extension of their life. They finally got it right with them by having them work together.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
And then what has been nice is Indy and Austin are the perfect complement, because neither of them are a threat to the Garganos. That makes it work. And at some point, when you want to flip the switch, you're set. Austin Theory will rise because of the fact, and they even set it up with a simple line, and that is, one day you can be Austin Takeover or Austin Wrestling, however they said it. I think it was Austin Takeover, because they gave her Indie Wrestling.
Yeah.
So you set up that future match when Austin finally will break off and become a singles competitor. It's brilliant, man.
It is.
It's brilliant.
What are some other takes, Sin City, from NXT that you enjoyed?
I mean, I think that the Tyler Rust character is something that is quickly developing into someone that's going to be making some serious waves in NXT. I'm really excited to see how they let this grow and how they actually develop this character. Pairing him off with Bivens. Bivens is great on the mic, and I think that they're doing Pro Wrestling 101. They're getting a great mouthpiece with somebody who looks like $1 million, might not quite talk like $1 million, but as a result, the two will be $1 million.
Sure.
Or actually, I guess what, $2 million. $2
million. It's the same thing that Austin Theory, by putting him with Gargano.
Yep.
You're able to develop something by having that pressure off of that, that wrestler.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Bivens is in an industry that essentially killed managers, and the only real publicity managers are getting is if they're a guy like Taz, who was a wrestler right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're able to create a character with him that no one associates him necessarily with anything else he's ever done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's fucking good. And it's great teaming. Boy, isn't it fun to watch Rhea Ripley wrestle? And isn't it fun to watch Dakota take fucking ragdoll bumps, man? And then after that match ends, you have that walk down where every single referee is trying to stop the inevitable scrum. And man, you just, boy, I cannot wait to see this match in a few weeks. There were 2 points between them and between the setup for Thatcher and Ciampa. Both times, these two people are going to beat the living fuck out of each other in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
I do have to say the match at the end of the show with Adam Cole and Velveteen. Mm-hmm. Those guys are extremely gifted in the ring, but I did not need to see that match for the 984th time. That's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah. I thought that it was, if nothing else, they're, I don't know if this was like the final thing, and then you permanently spin them off away from each other, but this needs to be it. Like, there should not be another rematch.
I agree. I was like, whatever. Out of the whole show, that was one of the ones I was like, I've seen it already. You know?
But it did one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think that this paid off for one reason. It was the first time that it was really acknowledged that Adam was not the head of the snake.
Mm-hmm.
So I think is setting up the potential infighting in Undisputed Era,
which needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think it should, because specifically to say that there is no leader in the group. Now, if you put the belt on Kyle O'Reilly, then we get what shall be probably one of the greatest feuds in NXT history between Cole and O'Reilly. That could be your 2021 feud of the year.
Yeah.
And let's hope that it takes place in NXT and not on a main roster somewhere.
I doubt it.
I'm just saying, like, I
think
that needs to happen in NXT. They don't need to bring it up to the big, to the big rosters and put it on one of the marquee shows in order to do it. Yeah. Do it in NXT.
Yeah. And then you had 2 wonderful segments to set up the O'Reilly and Finn, and then Cross and Damian Priest. Those packages were phenomenal as well.
Right.
And even, you know what, honestly, even the opening tag team match was fucking good. Once again, NXT, and I know you might, you don't want to see Cole and Dream again, but not only did you set up the potential of the Undisputed Era feud, you also really see the possibility of Dream moving up to the big roster to be lost in the shuffle. I think it's sort of the way to bury him.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. And just to add to that, show, I one of the matches I really enjoyed, probably even more than the Cole match with Dream, was probably Isaiah Scott and Jake Atlas. I just like enjoying seeing. I mean, it was just really a great match watching them two. Yeah. It's just good stuff all the way around.
And we got a quick setup for next week with Gargano having to defend the championship again.
Yeah.
And, I don't see him losing the belt, but then again, he doesn't have the curse, so.
True.
Interesting.
All right. Well, let's jump over into AEW. And I'll tell you this, Sin City, I enjoy the Acclaimed rap video.
I was actually going to ask your opinion and what you thought about that.
I like that. I don't know. I haven't learned their individual names, but the main guy that was doing the lyrics, he's actually really good. I mean, his style is good. And
the main guy is Mo, and then the other guy's Mabel. Right?
I'm pretty sure that's not it, but I don't know. So but I
wait until they trot Oscar out there next week.
But no, I mean, I thought the video was great, and then even coming to the ring, he was even able to hold his own. I was trying to see if those were the same exact lyrics that he did in the video, or that was something new. I think it sounded like it was a little something new, but I like it. I'm just saying
they were different.
Yeah, but I like them though. We'll see where they ring. I mean, in ring wasn't bad. It's not bad. They didn't have to definitely grow on me, but if they continue that way, I was sold on that because I really enjoyed that video that he put together. But yeah, man,
Definitely.
what's your take on the show?
So for me, obviously this was their holiday bash. This was their Christmas episode, as was the case with most of the stuff that we watched this week.
Sure.
And there seemed to be a little bit of an underlying theme. It wasn't spoken necessarily, but it genuinely was a theme of giving. You had Chris Jericho and MJF actually bringing Top Flight up and giving them some credible offense. Now, obviously, Jericho and MJF picked up the win, but Top Flight looked great in that match. So I think that they got some great exposure against a great, two great singles competitors, one of the greatest of all time, and quite frankly, the best heel in the business right now. And yeah, the right people won in that match, but Top Flight came away looking like $1 million. Later on in the show, as you mentioned, Impact, you had the Acclaimed against the Young Bucks. And I think that the Young Bucks did everything that they possibly could to, bring the Acclaimed up to their level and really allowed them to spotlight what they can do.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable that the Acclaimed is actually a tag team that was put together by Tony Khan in AEW.
Okay.
So they are two singles guys that worked in dark matches, and Tony Khan put them together. And so they've been working on, their chemistry and building that stuff up. So it'll be really interesting to see how they continue to gel. And it was all in all a fun night on AEW. Not exactly the most eventful AEW Dynamite episode of all time by any means, but again, it was a holiday episode. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, pretty solid stuff.
So it's interesting because everything that you just noted I put under a category of this is what I've been saying for a year. Build your fucking young guys.
Yeah.
And these guys are proving, and I'll throw in MJF in that. Because between those five guys, the two tag teams and MJF, those are all guys under 30.
Yeah.
And with guys like Jericho and the Bucks, those are the guys who are supposed to be elevating your young talent.
Yep.
They're getting it right. I think that where it kind of starts to honestly got really fucking stupidly boring for me is when Sting came out once again. First off, you know what you should have fucking done? Had Sting in the goddamn rafters not saying a fucking word for
Sting shouldn't be talking
for years, or not years, but at
Shit.
his age, you'd find the corpse in the rafter, right?
Oh.
So what they should have done, though, give him 3 months in the rafters, just like he was back in WCW. Anticipation. So now you're doing that with Darby. Great. Then all of a sudden you have to have Taz fucking come. So I'm already bored by what Sting's got to say. And then Taz and that faction interrupt again. By the way, do you think that anyone in the building, talking about fans, I'm talking about backstage, PAs who are bringing coffee to people, etc., security in the building, janitors, is a single person really afraid of Taz's kid? That guy, he comes out with, you don't even put him next to Starks. You put him next to Brian Cage. And it's like, well, what is the fucking 12-year-old doing here? He looks like fucking Marco Stunt next to Luchasaurus, man.
Oh, shit.
I'm just speaking the truth. Once again, if Taz ever sees me, I'm probably getting choked out.
Yeah.
But
right. Yeah.
Get honest here.
Again,
So,
on your own.
Yeah. But the truth of the matter is you hit that weird light cue to make Darby show up, even though you saw him run from
right.
there. Like, why'd you even show it if you're going to do a lights out phase? And then probably the most ridiculous line in the fucking whole week of wrestling, maybe in the year of wrestling. You got a baseball bat. You got a skateboard.
Right. I said the same thing.
Building up Cage as a monster in your
right.
fucking promo, and all of a sudden you go, ooh, there's an equalizer. That fucking skateboard hurts when I get hit with it.
Hey, man.
I thought the same thing.
He may have thumbtacks on the back of it. I'm just saying. Just ask Ricky Starks' back about that shit.
Yeah. At some point you just got to go, okay, just, you know what, clean it up. You conceptualize things and you have enough talented minds around, have them polish it. Don't just throw it together. Because this is the whole thing when people talk about how Vince changed his shit, or this was a last minute idea, or et cetera, et cetera. You have to feel that some of the stuff that goes out on AEW is just kind of like, hey, here's the points we need to hit, and let's, just improvise, which can be detrimental when you have a situation like that. If that was the actual, like, fucking outline right there, get out of here line, then boy, man, Taz just put no effort into that one. It's almost like I feel like Taz actually just, as a fucking rib, just decided I'm going to use that as the outline. Callis again doing great work with Omega, of course,
without a doubt.
Can't go wrong with that. One final thought, and for the love of Jesus Christ himself, believe in him or not, if I ever see Tony Tony Schiavone in mom jeans again, I'm gonna fucking bust my TV. Do not ever have that man wear jeans on television again. He looked like Haystacks Calhoun's pants, man. It was just fucking like I've never seen jeans as parachute pants. You know, he could have done the fucking you can't touch the stance.
And the fact he was in like every segment of the show. Yeah. I'm like, oh, Tony's out again. Okay. You know, yeah.
Hey man, they gotta have Schiavone earn his money, all right?
Yeah.
Well, obviously he got, you know, when you have expensive plastic surgery, you want to make sure it's clean.
Oh shit. I'll go ahead and I'll say it. If Shivani sees you on the streets in Vegas, I'm going to do the same thing as before. When he whoops your ass, I will record that shit.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, man. Good stuff though, man.
And I just want to say too, unfortunately with Brody Lee's passing, I had not gotten to AEW before today. And boy, it was so uncomfortable because basically during the whole like promo and intro into that Dustin match and the Dark Order, death was essentially mentioned. And boy, it didn't, you know, if I was watching Wednesday, you would never thought anything about it. But watching after him dying, it was just like a punch in the gut. It was just like, I cannot begin to imagine how just sad Wednesday is. It's going to be awful to get through.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I mean, it's so heartbreaking as it is, but to see what they're going to have to do on Wednesday. And honestly, I think personally, even though you're trying to set up a big show coming up in 2 weeks, I honestly scrap the storylines, let the guys wrestle in honor of Brody, and let the emotions flow with people giving testimonials. Use the WWE's example outline of how to do a tribute show. Put your own spin on it, put your own flavor on it. But let's not try to advance storylines, because at least for this week, put the focus on him and allow it to be a memorial to his memory. Yeah,
without question, man. I fully agree on that. It's going to be difficult to see what they're going to do. You know, and you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be a tough episode to possibly get through on Wednesday, but you know, that's something that we'll talk about more in depth in the memoriam segment. But yeah, definitely terrible tragedy. So
yeah.
Elsewhere on the show, since we have to kind of round things, Beach Break is now going to be the site and the location and the date for the beach wedding.
Oh boy. At least it's finally going to happen. We still got to wait a whole nother month out, but it seemed like this has been going on forever.
Can I somewhat just recap what I just said? Beach Break, February the 3rd. Does that stand out to anybody else? Like, you're going to do a beach wedding at the beginning of February. It's still going to be cold as shit. It's still going to be cold as shit. Now, obviously, they had this in the works because this was actually going to be the show that they broadcast from the Chris Jericho cruise. So that is the original reason why that they planned it for that date. But why do you still proceed and go through with everything, calling it a beach wedding? It's going to be cold as shit. I don't know how many times I have to say that. But we will finally see, I think, Miro laying out Kip Sabian.
Listen, as long as Miro doesn't wear that fucking jacket and he was standing next to Shivani's pants.
Right.
That was the most disgusting thing I've seen this week.
Oh,
is
shit.
those two standing next to each other, man. And on top of it, Shivani playing that little inching towards kind of
Yes.
hip, and then
Dude, that was so bad. Holy shit.
really, man, what the fuck?
Yeah, like that I was like, am I the only one seeing this right now? I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I was like, holy shit, this isn't really happening on a nationally televised wrestling show, is it? No, damn sure it is.
For everyone who's mentioning, oh, Vince is punishing Lana, is it the other way around? And Miro's getting the punishment by being what he is, and Lana is at least getting opportunity in the other organization. I just fuck me, man.
Lana's getting buried. So Lana's getting buried. She didn't have a legitimate payoff to that shit. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a burial. And quite honestly, they're both not doing anybody any favors whatsoever. But yeah, the only reason why I keep saying that is if you go back and you watch this particular promo, Miro actually says the date before the graphic pops up on the screen. He also keeps on getting his name out there and putting himself over as, essentially starring in the wedding. It screams heel turn to me. It absolutely does. And I'm just interested to see how they're going to make this work.
And on top of that, here's the fucked up thing about that. You said heel turn.
Well, I guess it'd be a face turn.
But it would be a face turn, essentially, because how do you have two heels pull a heel turn? It's just like...
Shades of gray, pal.
Dude, I you know what? Man, you know what? Sometimes it makes me feel good that there are segments of pro wrestling that come off worse than Vince Russo. It makes Vince look good, And I think what they've been doing with Miro is a perfect example of, you know what? I think even Vince Russo would have made a better decision on how that guy should be utilized, because this is just, what a fucking burn of cash, man. A lot of money for that.
Yeah.
And finally, I do have to say, can we just get rid of the best fucking friends?
Well,
can we just get rid of them, please? Well,
Beretta is legit injured, so that was them shooting that angle with Trent being taken out in the ambulance. That was storyline. But this is one thing that I actually have to somewhat applaud AEW for. If something happens in real life as a shoot, they'll find a way to bring it into the storyline to explain in canon why this person isn't around. Mm-hmm. So Trent is he's got a torn pectoral. So he's going to be out for about 6 months. He's actually had this injury before, and he was out for about 6 months the last time. So who knows what we'll see happen, but I think that we'll see, Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy working as a tag team.
Yay.
Yeah.
oh my God.
You know what? Change his name to Julius, and then you could have Orange Julius wrestling. What a tag team right there. Orange Julius.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Send me the check, Tony.
Yeah. Right. Oh, man. All right, let's jump over, man, to WWE SmackDown. A lot of stuff was happening. Yeah, a lot of stuff was happening on that show, man. What was you guys' take on
that? Best show of the week. I mean, you started off with the steel cage match with Owens and Reigns.
That's why I said last week, blow off is coming. Can you feel Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Deep down, we all knew the result of this match. Mm-hmm. But there were a couple of times in there where it was like, I don't know. And that was the mastery of those guys in that ring doing their damnedest to actually put that slight hint of doubt in there. I think that it is definitely something to be applauded that WWE knew what they were going up against, meaning that they were going to be given a fucking, they were going to be giving a lead in by the NFL. Yep. And they knew that they were going to have their biggest ratings bump and potentially the most eyes on their product right at the top of the show. So what better way of doing it than you bring out Roman Reigns, who looks like a badass. And ordinarily I'm a fan of champions entering second, but let's be real. Let's look at this from a marketing perspective. They did the right thing. They brought out the big badass with the manager that looks like a fucking weasel, and the guy's got the title. He looks like $1 million. He comes down, and then who do you present against him in the steel cage but an everyman? Somebody that looks like your average wrestling fan.
And your average football fan.
Right, yeah.
So I think that they were extremely smart with how they
I didn't
played
even think
this.
about that. That's pretty awesome that you was able to figure that out, because you're right about that. That's true.
Yeah, man.
Because I was wondering why Roman was coming out first too. I'm like, that's interesting for him.
Yeah, I think that I always give WWE shit on this show. Most of the time it's with good reasoning, but whenever they do something right, I have to make sure that I point it out and that I get the point across that, hey, I'm not this hardcore AEW shill that hates everything WWE. That's not the case at all. When something's done right, I have to applaud it. And this show, there were 3 pay-per-view quality main events on this SmackDown.
Absolutely.
It was one of the better shows that I've seen on WWE main roster TV in a very long time. And again, they drew in over 3.5, I think it was close to 3.5 million viewers. I think it was 3.35 mil for this episode of SmackDown, which was up 200% from the previous week. Nice. So that just goes to show you how big of a lead-in the NFL actually is.
Right.
So they took full advantage of it. So good job to WWE for their outing on SmackDown for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think about, to open with that and then to end with the Sami Zayn, Big E getting the IC belt. That was, again, perfect bookends, because once again, you see here you have a heel who you could set up earlier on in the show that this guy is a total fucking, chicken shit heel. And you could present a guy like Big E as this guy has been fighting against the odds of the New Day to be a solo wrestler, and you finally see it happen. The best thing about it too was when they all grabbed Sammy and carried him back into the ring.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see a chicken shit heel starting to run away from a lumberjack match. You barely ever see that. And that was great that all the lumberjacks just happened to be faces. So it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
The triple threat match for the women's tag team championship, when everything was kind of happening with it and everybody was coming out to the ring, I instantly had, oh shit, here we fucking go again type vibes. So I wasn't a fan of how they had basically each person come out, cut a promo on whoever else is in the ring and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. But
it accomplished what it needed to do. And when I was watching it live, I was like, this is fucking dumb. But again, an Impact, you kind of mentioned not realizing how something was at first. Yeah. After I thought about it, it actually gave those same viewers that may have been casuals that stuck around for the cage match, and they saw these women come out with these vibrant personalities, all cutting some sort of a promo so that they can get a little bit of background info on not just their speech patterns, but maybe some catchphrases, ways that they talk shit. So in retrospect, after I let it kind of digest, I was like, okay, I can see why they did it. But unfortunately, WWE has done that way too many times in the past, where it's like, it really didn't provide any kind of expository information for these characters. They were just coming out to cut promos just to cut promos.
Right.
And they didn't really have anything of consequence. Yeah. But this accomplished what it needed to do in retrospect. And the match was amazing as well.
Yeah, I almost thought that Sasha and Bianca was going to win because they were putting it on. I was like, man, is this about to be another shocker? But yeah, I get it. It was a really good match.
Yeah, and definitely.
You also put a nice shine on Charlotte and Asuka because you show that these are two of your top women. You show that Sasha is one of your top women and Bianca is being positioned as one. So if you didn't know who Bianca was going into this, now you, from this point on, you think that is a major player.
Definitely.
And then I personally got really excited by seeing Liv and Ruby watching backstage.
Right, yeah.
Because those two, man, give them the belts, man. And whether it be, the Rumble in February or at WrestleMania, they need it. It would be so great. That would be their WWE moment for the rest of their life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. They should win the tag team titles at Mania. And let's call it what it is. Who better for them to beat than Asuka and Charlotte? Instantly, you have instant legitimacy. So I hope genuinely that they go down that route for sure. But yeah, amazing spotlight being cast on Bianca Belair too. I think that she was the MVP of that match.
Absolutely.
And that makes a huge difference because to a casual fan or to a lapsed fan, she's probably the name and the face out of those 6 women that they know the least.
Yeah.
So for them to come away from that match like, well, I didn't know a damn thing about her, but holy shit, did you see all the stuff she did?
Yeah.
And then now they get more invested. It's, again, I just have to keep saying it. This episode of SmackDown, probably the best episode of SmackDown all year. No bullshit.
Absolutely. Man, well, over into Impact, there was no Impact taping this week as they're doing their top 2020 awards and different segments for this week, and they're going to do it for next week. But of course, everything is leading up to their Hard to Kill pay-per-view, going to be in January, where you get to have Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns against Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. So we got to get Matt Michaels to believe that that's going to be the match of January. Must see match.
I honestly, here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like the idea of Omega and the Good Brothers together. I just think if you look at the fact that in Gallows is a huge dude.
Yeah.
So there's no one on that other team that provides a matchup. So to me, if I'm looking at it logically, what do? I just let the Hoss work the fucking match, beat the shit out of these guys, and then we win.
Sure.
And that's coming from me as as someone who truly believes in that sort of storytelling. Like, if you have a monster, you want to compete with another monster against that, so it at least balances out. And I guess that's why I'm not too hyped, is because honestly, I could see that Luke could just fucking, power bomb each guy on top of each other, and then they just, from all for the win.
but again, even if you use the machine, if they were to double team him at any point, they could chop him down real quick, and then his strength won't you wouldn't be able to sell it as much when that end up happening. You just one off the top rope, the other one's on, the whole thing that they do all the fast motion enough to take him down real quick.
Yeah, but as wrestling relies on that nowadays, to me it's the same thing as watching the super kicks, right? Because once you get super kicked nowadays, your body momentum takes you into a circle and you throw a super kick.
It's like, well, obviously. I mean, that's what's being taught now. I mean,
right.
So again, I think just, you're right. And that's how it's going to be. You're going to have a lot of double teaming to get the, but anything that really bugs me is you're in a weird position, because if you're Impact, why would you allow the team of Swan and Motor City to lose?
Well, it's not going to be a clean finish.
I understandably.
Yeah, I mean,
to me already, it's one of those where you just kind of go, wait, you're building up a big match, but I don't have much anticipation of who's going to lose. You have to, you got to put Omega in them, and it's going to be absolutely, it's going to be some wonky finish and whatnot.
Yeah, and ultimately it'll be one of the guns that eat the pin. Because obviously the heels are going to cheat and they're going to end up picking up the win that way. But as far as this goes, I mean, you don't want to have Swan eat the pin. You don't want to have anybody on the other side eat the pin, quite frankly. So you can, pick a Motor City Machine Gun, and that'll be the person that eats the pin in that match.
And I think I don't know if there's any buzz about it, but my gut feeling is we see a new Bullet Club member show up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and there's your
a spoiler
interference. There's your Dusty finish right there.
Gotcha.
Yep. somebody from the Impact locker room that, defects, if you will.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I believe it's probably going to be X-Pac, maybe 6, shows up. Because he was,
So one thing that we actually didn't talk about with AEW was the Shawn Spears promo. I think Shawn Spears cut probably the best promo that he's cut within AEW, and probably in his entire career. I could actually see bringing up, since we're fantasy booking this thing, I could actually see Shawn Spears essentially go to Impact Wrestling as part of this storyline, essentially saying, fuck you, Tony Khan, I'm out from AEW. And then he is one of the guys that'll end up working on Impact every week, essentially trying to get a job with them or, be on their roster or whatever the situation is.
That really seemed like that was an honest promo.
He pulled it off extremely well. I mean, it played in with a lot of it. It had a very work shoot feel kind of to it.
Yeah.
And I seriously hope that they let Shawn Spears run with this type of a character, because I think that this is going to do a lot more for him than whatever trajectory he had in AEW, spinning his wheels with a loaded glove and a bunch of other dumb shit. But I think that he could be one of the people on the AEW roster that could benefit the absolute most from going and getting the exposure on Impact and working on the Impact shows.
I can see that.
I honestly feel too, if you want to really go fucking nerd fantasy, how to incorporate things, let's take it a step further. I have him show up in ROH to feud with Flip Gordon. because I think if there's two styles that match, Gordon and Spears would fucking bring down the house.
That would be a
So
hell
I
of a
think,
match.
there's a lot to be said on the potential of, people wanting to fantasy book. I mean, in my mind, it's bullshit because of the fact that it's just a fucking fantasy.
Mhm.
And people think that they are smarter than the people actually doing the business,
Right.
that they know more than, the people who actually work in the actual industry.
I'm just putting the
But
ideas out there for general consumption and hoping that we actually do have our source within AEW that's listening to the show and takes that storyline and says, "Hey, Mr. Khan, I think this might actually work."
Right.
That's all, because I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
wink, wink, Mr. Daniels.
There you go.
What's up, CD?
Let's jump over into New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh shit. We got our pronunciation guide.
We do.
Yeah.
There was 3 matches that was announced during the Wrestling Kingdom press conference this past week. So one of them was it's going to be a 22 wrestlers will participate in the KOPW 2021 New Japan Rambo, which is I guess equivalent to the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a battle royal.
Sure. Okay. And then the final 4 entrants will be a part of a 4-way match on January 5th to determine the KOPW 2021 holder. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Starts at 22. The last 4 is a 4-way match. So that was the first one. Then
WWF did it best already.
yes.
97. Rumble, the Royal Rumble into Sean losing his smile into the 4-way with the last 4 remaining from the Rumbles. So
Yeah.
someone's been watching their old wrestling.
Yep.
And then it was announced that Kenta versus Juice Robinson for January 4th. And then it had mentioned that Robinson has sustained an eye injury. Which is the reason why he wasn't at that conference. But it also came out and that he sustained a fractured orbital bone that will actually have him unable to wrestle, period.
Yeah.
What's up with that, CD? That's kind of crazy.
Dude, and the thing is, Juice Robinson is a guy that has come so far from the CJ Parker character that he had in NXT. This is a guy that, had an amazing 2020, all things considered. I mean, he completely shattered the mold of what anybody thought that he could be. And this is a major setback, but I have no doubt in my mind, Juice has the talent. He's got the charisma, and I have no doubt that, once everything heals up and, everything's good, that he's cleared, that he's just going to pick right back up where he left off for sure.
Absolutely. Now, this is where it gets exciting. The KOPW 2021 4-way match and an IWGP Junior Ray Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match official for January 5th. Here we go. As El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru will face Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato.
You had a couple there, and
okay.
Honestly, Impact,
yeah,
that was much better than what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So yeah, just keep at it. Keep the Hooked on Phonics going to the palatial Impact estate, and I'm sure that you'll pick it up in no time.
I'm sure.
Think about this though. The one he had the most problem on was El Desperado.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Oh man. Yeah, man. Anyways.
So
it's going to be a great match regardless within the tag team championship match.
Without a doubt, man. And obviously everything is all roads lead to Wrestle Kingdom, January 4th and 5th. It's
They said
definitely going to be an amazing show.
It's sold out, and of course, when we say sold out, that's only because they only can have limited amount of people inside the Tokyo Dome. But of course, they could sell that out if it was open, all seat was available. They'll sell that thing out easily,
bro. It's the hardest ticket to get when they have maximum capacity.
Right.
So you've got American wrestling fans, namely, but you have wrestling fans from all over the globe, to where it's a bucket list thing is to go to Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah. So it's kind of like a WrestleMania trip for a lot of people, but it's even higher because you're going to have to travel to this, far away, distant country with, all these different customs. And, it's when you go, it's going to be a major culture shock. Yeah. So I think that hopefully Wrestle Kingdom after this will at least be, looking better than what we are right now. I know that the Wrestle Kingdom trip is actually one that I personally have looked into doing. And I genuinely hope that I'm able to do it in the very near future. So
when you decide to do that, definitely let me know, because I want to make that trip as well.
No, of course, man, without a doubt.
Yeah.
One kind of interesting and funny note from the Go Home show that New Japan just did. Mm-hmm. They had Naito and Ibushi. They were faced off in the center of the ring. Jay White entered. Geto, who is his manager, cut a promo and then handed the mic over to White. And he said that I'm the only one that matters. None of you guys matter. And he basically rolled away after saying some very incendiary things to Naito and Ibushi. But I thought that this was funny. So what happens? Naito grabs the mic, starts talking trash to him. So what does Jay White do? But he grabs both of Naito's belts from ringside and leaves with them. So technically, Jay White is carrying the IWGP Heavyweight and the Intercontinental Championship as well.
Okay.
So just adding more stakes to it. It's gonna be a fun couple of nights of wrestling for sure. January 4th and 5th from the Tokyo Dome.
4th and 5th, yeah, absolutely. Man, something cool to look forward to in the new year, right?
Yes.
And starting right
it's right around the corner, man.
Yeah.
New Japan World. Make sure you check it out. It's $10.
Can't beat that. All right, guys, we're going to jump right over into what we thought was our top match or top pro wrestling moment of the year. I tell you what, I'll go first, and then you guys can go. I would say definitely match, and this was very difficult because of course there's been tons of matches, but the Hell in a Cell I Quit match with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, to me, this was a very emotional match, which is why I got very involved in this emotionally, because we know first off that they are family, and the way that this match was being sold, first off, they're going at it, going back and forth at it, and to a point where Jay just couldn't do no more. He now was getting whipped. He now had a chair hitting at him. And now it got to the point where Roman Reigns had picked up the steel stairs and was just about to do, his blood. And it's because he would not say, I quit, which of course caused not only all of the officials to come to the ring, but then came his brother Jimmy that gets in the ring like, dude, okay, stop, just don't do it. And he's hugging Jay. Like, this is really like emotional. I'm going like, oh man, why is he doing? I mean, seriously, that's how involved I was getting into that. And to a point where it looked like, okay, maybe Roman was beginning to feel like, okay, what am I doing? Now he gives his he gives a handshake and almost a hug over into Jimmy until he attacks him. And then when he does that, you have Jimmy now and Jay holding each other's hand, which by that point, I almost was like, oh man, I know that ain't a tear coming, man. Because seriously, I know it's horrible. It's horrible. But that's how invested I was in that particular match, to see the family squabble, the family bond within that. And because of that, it wasn't just a match. It was the storytelling of that was just so real to me that I have to give that, to me, just the best match of the year when it comes to everything that was involved. And that was very tough because there was a lot of other matches that were, but emotionally that really got to me there. So that would be mine. Fellas, you go ahead. What was your either top match or top wrestling moment of the year?
For me, I would say that it was the tag match at AEW Revolution, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. That was the best match that I saw all year long. And I have no problems telling, going to the ends of the earth to tell people that. It was an absolutely fun match, an instant classic, something that, when the match was announced, I wasn't really, expecting a ton out of it.
Yeah.
But all four guys went out, they tore it up, and they put on the best match of this year. As far as the best moment of this year, personally, I call it what you want. The Roman Reigns heel turn with Paul Heyman. The reveal to it was masterful. And that was the best event of this year. As far as, nothing else really came to mind. That was it.
Yeah. What do you got, Matt Michaels?
It's interesting because I would say that for me, it ends up being Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, pulling off one of the best wrestling matches you could do in front of no one right after a pandemic set in. These are people who did not get a chance to adjust essentially to there being no audience. And yet that match was one of the best pieces of storytelling and wrestling that you'll see. With that said, what's interesting is that WrestleMania also gave us both cinematic matches. One where you had Undertaker's, essential ride away, and one where you had John Cena essentially disappearing into the void of the Fiend.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for what you said, DJ, of there should have never been a WrestleMania this year. It goes to show that 3 of their strongest showings of the year were for an event you think should not have even have happened. And that says a lot, because there shouldn't have been a product, essentially. Everything else shut down, yet they were allowed to stay, and they had to figure out what the fuck they were doing. AEW, same thing, had to figure out what the fuck they were doing. And eventually that kind of, was the biggest story of the year, was the fact that in a year where every other form of entertainment shut down for a period of time, professional wrestling at its highest level was able to maintain a stability and stay open. And that, unfortunately, in the day and age that we live in, we like to forget that there is anything that goes into creating a product, whether it be wrestling or television or concerts or whatever. We never think about the process. So when you see that wrestling was continuing, it wasn't appreciated as much for the unique circumstances that it encountered. And in the end, that's the to me the biggest story of the year was the fact that if the fans didn't even recognize that this was out of the ordinary going on, they did their job, because that allowed the people who like to bitch, the people who like to praise, the people who are journalists to still have a fucking job. And that, I think it's overlooked that these people like Meltzer and our buddy over at Forbes and
Blake.
We'll talk shit about Blake
and Sportskeeda,
and
Raja,
yeah.
All these outlets, they would not have had any type of flow of income coming in if it wasn't for the WWE and AEW continuing to put on a product.
Right.
So, yeah, that in the end is, to me, the biggest story of the year. I also think that one of the best things I've seen all year was the ability for Kevin Cross to separate his shoulder and still pick up Keith Lee on one good arm was fucking real, and that goes to show you for a guy, who, he came in, was given the opportunity, showed that in that moment he would not fucking quit, had to give up the title, and now enters back in right into Priest, right into something you want to see. And honestly, if they do it right, you have your future of your company for the next 10 years right there in that guy.
Yeah.
And that's no bias behind it. That's not like, oh, you're just coming from a Vegas perspective, a guy who was at FSW.
Right.
I'm coming from the straight perspective of, you show me another motherfucker who can go out there and keep up with Keith Lee with one fucking arm.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
The match, the ending gets changed. Your pay-per-view ends 15 minutes short because of an injury to someone else.
Right. Good points, man. Well, that leads us to then, what award would we like to give out? Now, we can either give out a Best Wrestler Award of the year, or maybe our least favorite wrestler award of the year. And, who would that be and why? I'll tell you this. I don't have a least favorite wrestler. I'm sure I can maybe think of one, but I can tell you who was going to make it if they didn't make that change that they made it. And I know I will probably get beat down for this, but that my least, he's not the least, but he was up for it, would have been Omega. Because I was just expecting, and I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, I was really expecting a lot more than what I was getting. And I was just kind of being confused because Omega again, and I don't know if you was on that show, Sin City. I think you was having a birthday celebration, but I know it was one of the shows Matt and I were talking about how we were expecting just Omega, how his name.
No, it was Simon Street. It wasn't me.
Oh, that wasn't you. Okay.
No, because
okay.
Street apparently, knew all about the cleaner.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, from what I knew, and I didn't know a whole lot about Kenny Omega before or his time over in New Japan. I knew somewhat of his name. I know John Cena had mentioned him in a post once, so that causes you to go, well, let me find out who, Kenny, and you watch a match here, but that's not enough for me to say, oh, I've watched all Kenny Omega. I know about, his whole record. But from what I've learned, that he was just the man over there. And during this time, man, everybody really seemed like, I guess it got to the point that even John Cena wanted him to be a part of WWE. It was just important to have such this huge name, a great wrestler over here. So when eventually he chooses AEW, and I've watched him and he's good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I guess I was expecting something bigger to come from him, than maybe storyline or something. And it seemed like it was lacking that, up to the point of him beating now Moxley, having the belt, and now this storyline that he's running. I'm all in, because now I'm beginning to almost see a different side of him that I'm really beginning to enjoy. Anyway, he didn't get that award. I was just saying he was close. But who I would give that award to, and this was still tough, man, because I wanted to give it to people, but I had to be real. I'm like, I don't want to give it to someone who's just showing up halfway through it. Sami Zayn, I would want to give that award to, but I think he came somewhere around the end of summer or midsummer, right? Roman Reigns, I would want to give it to, but he came back like later on. So I wanted to give it someone who kind of was there the entire year. And of course I was like, well, maybe I could go Drew. I do like Drew, but who probably really impressed me the most would have to be in the women's wrestling. And I was stuck between Bayley and Asuka, and I ended up giving the award probably to Bayley, because Bayley, just the fact that her entertaining on the mic was just superb, man. It was awesome. And then the ability of her being able to wrestle as well and create that great storyline. I was entertained through the entire year with Bayley. She would get my award as wrestler of the year. It was tough though, because Asuka was right there too. Let's think about it. She's had a belt almost the entire year at some point, and she's had to hold it down a lot of times, where there was, especially when Raw was kind of transitioning in this pandemic, they didn't kind of know where to go sometimes with the women. And Asuka just kind of, one minute she was at the commentary table making a lot of noise. The next minute, she's now the champion, and she was taking off. So it was tough, but I give Bayley the award of the year for that. I'll send it over to you, Sin City. Do you have an award you would give to best or maybe least favorite wrestler of the year? Maybe
well,
both.
I'm not gonna talk shit about people, so I'm not gonna say least or worst wrestler or
Sure.
whatever. I am going to give my MVP award for this year, for 2020, to Jon Moxley.
Okay.
The reason why is simply this: for a large bulk of 2020, he put AEW on his back, and call it what you will, there were ratings gaps when he wasn't on TV. When he did show up, miraculously, the ratings went through the roof. He showed a lot of versatility, not just in the ring, but on the mic. And he got a lot of fans really, really looking back to how things were before he went to WWE. And in a lot of people's view, got watered down. As they gave him all sorts of bullshit gimmicks, bullshit storylines, I should say. And I think Moxley did a lot for AEW this year, in 2020. Yes, he was a former WWE name, but at the same time, that gave an air of legitimacy. I think that, what he accomplished in AEW, but also in New Japan, has kind of helped to sow the seeds for what we're seeing now, even with, Impact Wrestling, doing cross promotion with AEW, with the possibility, of ROH getting involved with that kind of stuff. Obviously with New Japan having their fingers and everything, it's great, but I legitimately don't think that it would have been to the degree that it is without Moxley kind of testing the waters first, dipping a toe in and showing that it can happen.
I want to say, because I thought of John Moxley too. Here's the reason why I didn't give him the award on my side. He wasn't visual enough. I just didn't see him on TV as much as I would like to. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing. You know, I mean, that probably worked for what they were trying to do. But I would have loved to see him more on there, because I know that he is entertaining and he is great to see. He can put on good matches, can do great promos. I didn't get a lot of that this year. And I know 2 weeks he had to be out because of, quarantining. But even with that, I just hadn't seen a lot of John. And because of that, I didn't give him that. But I can see where you're definitely coming from you saying that he still was holding AEW on his back. So, yeah. I don't know. Let's ask you. How about you, Matt Michaels? You have a award you want to give for best or least favorite? Both, neither, one?
So I think both of you had very legitimate choices. There's no doubt. I think Bailey is on top, of her game. Is probably one of the not only the best, but one of the sexiest wrestlers. With that haircut and everything, and just knowing what her gimmick is now, knowing her character, being able to play up to it. That's been amazing. I think Moxley, there were some very good points that both of you made on, him definitely carrying AEW to some extent, and also to him, not being as visible. I think that Chris Jericho is also someone who you could argue has such a value to that company. I also think that when I look at NXT, I think that besides Rhea Ripley is phenomenal, but you also really have to say that Johnny Gargano, if there's anyone who can be associated with a company and being the backbone of that company, boy, what a guy to go through different phases of who Johnny Gargano was. And you go back and you look at that. That's one of those, like, if you had a DVD chronicling his story, look at all the changes that have been made and all the, he's not a guy you would think as a top guy, and he's proven his value as a top guy. Honestly, when it comes down to it, MJF is the whole fucking show right now. Period. I can't wait until his contract's up and WWE gets a hold of him, because he's going.
They won't know what to do with him.
No, I think if he goes to WWE, he becomes maybe not the wrestling Hall of Famer or whatever, because he goes into movies like that. Seriously, man. As good as The Miz is, this kid has that figured out 10 years before The Miz does. And that's it, man. He has everything. And one of the things we didn't mention on AEW was him walking into the room with LAX.
Right.
And boy, when you looked at how fucking good he delivered that, and the solidity of that handshake and hug, the extending of the next hand and getting that handshake. And then as they left, he didn't do the thing that every fucking wrestling producer would have said, and that is give it a smile.
Yep.
He left it to, is he sincere?
Yep.
Or is he gonna fuck him?
Because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, that's different.
You have to give some credit to whoever produced that segment. I'm not too sure who would have been in charge of filming that. Because whoever did that, if that wasn't the note, if that wasn't the way they tried it, they might have even filmed it like that. Who knows? But it's those little things that if he does that right now in his career at his age, man, unless something goes terribly wrong with an injury in the ring, he still could potentially, out of the ring, transform himself into a fucking star in entertainment, period. And that's what it comes down to, man. It's really encouraging to see talent like that. And there's so many more people that you could point out. AJ Styles by far is probably the star of the decade, holding together not only Impact Wrestling, but moving into WWE, holding together WWE. Also a small stop in Japan made the Bullet Club a fucking phenom.
Mm-hmm.
So there's someone, if you're looking at future Hall of Fame, like hands down, just put them in now. And also, speaking of future Hall of Fame and AJ Styles, you said goodbye to The Undertaker this year.
Yes.
As well as John Cena. Again, both of those in those amazing cinematic matches. And then bringing up John Cena in cinematic matches, you think of The Fiend. And boy, that's another person that you can argue, hands down, might be the one who actually, if you took him away from WWE television, barring Roman Reigns now, you want to talk about your viewership dropping.
Mm-hmm.
That could very well have really caused major problems. He's that valuable and that versatile.
Yep.
You don't really you don't look at a guy like that and remember, hey, he's playing two fucking different characters on a weekly basis, right?
Yeah.
Cactus Jack and Mankind and Dude Love. They always put him in one for the most part for 3 months, right? And then they change him to the other and then to the other. So he got a chance to kind of cycle through. With Bray, he has to go from the kids show host persona, which is phenomenal, to a fucking evil son of a bitch who you don't know if it's going to be a weird, match that sees all facets of incarnations of John Cena and Bray Wyatt and everything going on through that, or if you're talking about a match in which Braun Strowman is literally submersed into a lake, or to the fact that the Fiend was literally burned to a pulp. And now, but see, you do that, and that's what was brilliant about Alexa Bliss's promo.
Yeah.
We're about to see another incarnation of Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard enough. Listen, it's hard enough for a lot of guys to feel comfortable with one character, but to give breath and life into so many different guys, we got to remember that this guy was a fat roly-poly actually named Husky.
Right.
It's true. It's true.
And you look at that and you look at where he's gone and fuck,
Yeah.
it's just and then for that matter, you can also argue Alexa Bliss could be one of the most valuable people around
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
because what she's been able to do this year, amongst all the amazing actual in-ring talent, she has always been a good talent. She has never been a Charlotte Flair or a Becky or a Bailey or a Sasha in terms of being in the ring. She's good. But goddamn, she's probably the best female right now in character, hands down.
Yeah.
And she's another one that I think that she just the reason she was gone is because she left to film an episode of one of the Disney shows or something like that. I think she's gone in about 5 years.
Yep.
Because Hollywood is snatching her up within the next few. So,
Agreed.
But the main thing is that your award is going to MJF.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and, you know,
Yeah.
but there is so much more for a year.
It's tough.
Well, and for a year that was not in front of fans.
Right. Yeah.
We got literally a quarter of a year in front of fans. That was it. So, there's a lot to unfold and to be said for an industry that could have, easily shut down. And, we would be talking about the recap shows of, every old fucking piece of shit film that they could have put together and put in through repackaging for the, that could have been the whole fucking year, man.
It could have. Yeah.
So true.
Oh, and worst, Lana and Miro. I mean, that was simple.
I said earlier I wasn't going to talk shit about anybody, but if we're going to do that, Lana is a close second, but I was actually going to say Reba. Rebel, Reba, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, just accept those awards, folks. It's out there now.
I'm sure they're going to be showing up on the show within a couple of weeks with their award in hand.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanking us for telling them that they suck this year.
Man.
I also am ready to take an ass whipping from Lana.
But see, that one you would enjoy a little bit.
I don't know, because I got a feeling I'd be going through about 23 tables at this point, just constantly.
Well, right. Well, if one thing's definitely for sure, you'd definitely have wood.
Yeah. Well.
Good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh, man. Well, look, guys, I tell you, as we know, 2020 has had its challenges in pretty much every industry, although we're talking here in pro wrestling, but it also, we had a lot of lost in this year as well. And I can't even think of another year. I mean, we get lost every year, but I mean, this year has just really just taken a toll on pro wrestling. We lost so many. And just when we thought maybe all of that was over again this past weekend, we get hit with another, and not even, we're never prepared for any of them. If we know about someone's this, then, maybe there's a possibility that once we know it's sad, but we know that they were battling something. But when we had no idea that anyone is battling anything and it comes to, it's just even a bigger shock. And that's kind of how most of us felt when we heard the news of John Huber this past weekend. I'm gonna give it over to you, Matt Michaels, Sin City. You're also welcome to mention as well, because there's so many that we have we've lost, but we don't want to end the show without not mentioning, because they've contributed so much to us. We enjoyed so much of what they all have done. And even if we don't know what they've done, just for the fact that they're in our world, in our community, they deserve to be named as well. So that's what we're going to do today. And Matt Michaels, I'll give it over to you.
Yeah, and I'll as I go through this list, both you guys feel free to chime in
Sure.
um, on each person if you have something to say about them.
Yeah.
But it in doing a little research of years past versus this year,
Hmm.
it's quite stunning that this year the list was a lot longer than
Hmm.
the last, the last handful of years.
And it wasn't even related to like COVID, which was interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. You would figure in a pandemic that maybe that would be a reasoning of
Hmm.
why X amount of people. But now, let it be said, with Brody passing away, it has been noted that right now they say it's non-COVID related. However, there has been no official release of
That's
what the
true.
cause of death was.
Right.
So even though it's reported, there is a chance that if he was dealing with something that is lung related, that if he did somehow contract COVID, that just could have excelled whatever
Sure.
that was, because
That
that's
is
what it
true.
takes.
Yeah.
Attacks. But you know, in every when you read what people have said who knew him, and I'm not just talking about wrestlers who've been able to post RIP brother, or things to that nature of saddened by his loss, but those people who truly, Eric Rowan and Bray Wyatt especially, um being so close to him. Bray's,
Yeah. I got a
poor,
little emotion raised.
yeah.
Yeah.
uh the idea that we were supposed to be there together, growing old,
Right.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
um fuck, and everyone praising the fact that he first and foremost was about his wife and his kids,
Hmm.
in a business that is uh, very much Johnny come lately, to whoever is the rat of the night.
Sure.
This was not his way. He couldn't wait to get off the road so he can be home with his kids and his wife.
Mhm.
um, Eric Rowan said that he used to, when he'd leave to go back home, he'd be like, "See you in forever," um, meaning that when he was home, it felt like it was forever. It felt good, and then he'd come back and have to go back to the grind. His wife put out a statement, really calling AEW one of the best places ever for the things that they have done, that none of us knew about, you know.
Mhm.
Um, while this was something that was being dealt with, one of the things that is the most touching is the fact that um, Kenny Omega allowed uh, Brody Jr., who's 8 years old,
Mhm.
to uh, to pin him for the championship, so that Brody was shown that moment of Brody Jr. winning his debut match because they knew that he was not going to be able to see that. And think about this.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about this. This is remarkable. That happened, and it flew under the radar. To no one really made anything of it. And what's remarkable in this day and age of guys like Dave Meltzer and other people who get the inside information from whatever sources, nobody knew.
Mhm.
Nobody knew. They knew essentially that he was dying. To do something like that, they knew that he probably was not going to be around. At the same time, they kept as much hope as possible, as you could, tell. And like I said earlier, this show Wednesday is probably going to be as tough as it was watching the tributes to Owen Hart, to Eddie Guerrero, and to Chris Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
And because those are the only other significant deaths where we saw the wrestling community kind of come together. Obviously, Chris Benoit goes into a different avenue as the truth came out about what happened. But if you think about just how much he meant to the wrestling community, the people he worked with, they love the guy. And that says more than anything. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything to add to him.
I think that it's something that needs to be said, that we always hear about how great of a person that somebody is after they die, and I think that that's a real kind of a tragedy in itself. We really should celebrate people for who they are while they're alive. And this is something that's much bigger than John Huber, but this is something that we as people just need to grow together in a time where there's just so much uncertainty with everything going on right now. We need to celebrate one another, and we need to celebrate successes, and we need to uplift those people that might need a little bit of uplifting. Now, obviously, John was dealing with something that was ongoing, and something that he's been dealing with for quite some time, evidently. But nonetheless, he wasn't, there wasn't any sign of like self-harm or anything crazy like that. That's not the avenue that I'm going down. But I think that we as people need to just be better people, and we need to applaud those that deserve the applause. John Huber was one of those people that deserved applause while they were alive. And it's a really, really big oversight that he didn't get nearly as much love or respect as what he deserved. He was an amazing in-ring worker. He brought a lot of charisma to the table. He was an extremely hard worker, and he was also somebody that was extremely agile for being a big man. There aren't too many nearly 7-footers that you see that are, his size, his weight, that can throw a Hurricane Rana. But Brody Lee, before he got into WWE, he threw several Hurricane Ranas. He left his feet more than anybody else that I can remember. So he truly was a hybrid style of a wrestler. And it's one of those things that, for the type of person that he was, the type of worker that he was, it's a shame that we didn't celebrate him enough when he was alive, but we can definitely keep his memory alive.
I would tell you that when he was with the Wyatt family, I every time I see people with groups, yeah, I always play this game of, oh, I know who's going to make it and who's not, and most of the time I'm pretty wrong on that. But with him, as I knew that, Bray was where he was at, I felt, oh, he's going to be the one that's going to be the next one that was take off. I didn't see it in Eric, but I saw it in John. It's not to say anything from Eric. I'm just saying when I saw them working together, that's what I used to see. And I enjoyed watching a lot of his ring work. When he would do I think they were called like alligator rolls. I enjoy that. It went with the storyline, right? The whole swamp thing. It was and it just seemed like it was a great and an effective move. When you had the camera on his face and those eyes are just really big, it told the storyline. And then of course the what do they call the shirt?
The wife beater.
White beater, yes. When he had that on, that they were saying, man, I don't know when the last time that was washed. When you would see that, everything was just, the character that he had was just great. And I actually enjoyed when with the Wyatt family, when he was actually, wrestling in that whole sort of faction there. Very entertaining. And whenever there was that breakup, he was going to be the one that was going to go to that next level. So I was pretty shocked, which I am, which I guess I shouldn't be in the world of McMahon, when you see that things the way you meet things, it doesn't turn out that way. I was glad to see that he was picked up by someone who saw that potential and then said, hey, let him do what we know he's able to do. And it was great to see that.
And I think a couple, things that you pointed out, Stephen, in terms of celebrating someone. Mm-hmm. One of the hard things is that the best people in this industry are usually, we don't know about, like, you don't know how he interacted with his wife and kids. So now this brings a new light to being able to say, oh my God, this person was someone who was truly beloved by everyone else. There's not enough praise about how people are outside of their characters. Mm-hmm. And that's a big problem with people. Tom Cruise, you can name 20 different movies he's been in, 20 different characters, and yet you still have an assumption, an idea of who Tom Cruise is. You don't associate him as a character. With a wrestler, you associate their character with them. And a lot of times that will stick with them for the rest of their career or life.
Yeah.
And that's how you view them. And that really kind of makes it hard to appreciate, because when someone is being utilized either under what fans, have seen them used in different lights, in different companies, or if they're being overexposed, let's face it, 2020 was a bad year. It could have been even worse when Roman had his relapse with leukemia, right? Mm-hmm. You imagine if Roman Reigns passed away before he's doing what he is now?
Right.
He would have never it would have been a quick idolization of the fact that he was tragic that he died young. Mm-hmm. But it would always been that whole idea of he never saw his full potential. Right now with Brody Lee, that is exactly what we're saying. He never saw his full potential because he was only 41.
Yeah.
And he was just getting the opportunity to at least try something that he wanted to try.
Yep.
So, it's tragic. And, Steve, as you were talking about not, making a case for, kind of like a self-harm, leads me to the next person, Kimura. When she committed suicide, she was only 22. And does it not feel like May was 5 years ago. That was only in May when she died. And let me once again leave you with nearly 100 frank opinions every day. I couldn't deny that I was hurt. I'm dead. Thank you for giving me a mother. It was a life I wanted to be loved. Thank you to everyone who supported me. I love it. I'm weak. I'm sorry. I don't want to be human anymore. It was a life I wanted to be loved. Thank you, everyone. I love you. Bye. That's tough, man. That's tough. And that was a choice, and it's just unfortunate that there was no one to help her out. And that leads me to the next person, and that's Shad. Shad Gaspard didn't take his own life. He saved his 10-year-old son's life.
Yeah.
And man, again, fuck, it feels like it's been, 3, 4, 5 years. And this just happened,
Mm-hmm.
A handful of months ago. Man, it again, when you lose a person who everyone who ever encountered him said the same type of thing. This guy was someone who loved his family more than anything, and in his case, he was willing to die for his son to live. And he never reached the potential as a professional wrestler that, by all means, he should have, just based on the person he was. That's the sad thing with him. There was an opportunity potentially in the future to, why not be on AEW if WWE wouldn't have taken him back?
Mm-hmm.
And he was still, only 39. Another name that I think a lot of people kind of has forgotten is La Parka. He died in January, which
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately it was something from an in-ring stunt. you know um just a shame. Someone who lived a full life here was Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson was 79. Man, you talk about trailblazer for coming up with matches and ideas, and being really one of the keys to the WWF/E being as successful as it was. If Pat Patterson isn't there, he was their equivalent to Dusty Rhodes in WCW and WA. So if Pat's not there, Vince might have not. This is how much this man meant to pro wrestling and to these guys who went from young men to superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat was a gay man, and that is something that, for as much now as it is accepted in mainstream to be a gay person, he had to be tough. Because it was not something that was looked, fairly, everyone had their own opinions about it back then. Could potentially get you killed. And it's still to get you killed. And to have that kind of courage to, to be a wrestler in an industry that a lot of times guys did not look kindly on that.
Mhm.
You know, it took a lot, and he earned all the respect. Road Warrior Animal, man, 60 years old, huh? Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, wow, you know, it's hard. It's hard to, to think that Mike Hagstrom has been gone for what is going to soon be 20 years, you know, and to lose Animal. And then at 70, Kamala, someone who had been battling so much health wise, condition wise in the last decade. Cauliflower Alley Club uh, gave him some hope for being able to provide him with some money to help with his ongoing health issues the last couple years.
Mhm.
And say what you want about the gimmick. Um, it actually was one of the most memorable gimmicks. And you know, you talk about someone who took that and ran with it. It's just, it's amazing. Um, we wouldn't have The Rock without Rocky Johnson, right? You know, 75, he
Yeah.
passed away in January. Um, patriarch of The Rock himself, but the son of you know, a common person and marrying the daughter of a patriarch of a wrestling family, and you know, having a kid that is undoubtedly probably the most successful person in all of Hollywood. Let's face it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's Bullet Bob Armstrong. Another patriarch of a wrestling family. Will also say in that same light, Rikishi's dad as well. So
Mhm.
we lost quite a good amount of people who really meant
Yeah.
something to the families. Zeus,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Tiny Lister, he passed away, as well as we could kind of throw in some guys who showed up on WrestleManias, including Regis Philbin, Alex Trebek, Little Richard, and of course Cy Sperling, the Hair Club for Men guy,
Yeah.
did show up. And that also leads us to Kevin Green,
Yeah.
Football Hall of Famer, man, and arguably one of the better transitions for a guy who didn't wrestle all the time, but you see what Pat McAfee's doing now. A guy like Kevin Green paved the way for that. A guy
Yeah.
like Ernie Ladd paved the way for a guy like Kevin Green to go from football to
Yep.
to wrestling. You know, Howard Finkel.
Mhm.
We have no WrestleMania title without
Yeah.
Howard Finkel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then some other guys here. Danny Havoc passed away this year, shortly after Shad passed away. Supreme passed
Yeah.
away a few
Yeah.
months after Shad. John Ian, who was dear to us in L.A. For his work in the wrestling organizations out there. We can throw in guys like Tracy Smothers.
Yes.
Man, there's just uh, Puppet. You know, he was someone that really hit close to me because he was 44, same age as me when he passed away this year, and that was the Bruiser R.J. Meyer,
Mhm.
who was very very popular and known, on the Baltimore scene. Um, just just a lot of people, and
I
there's
know.
so many other names that I,
Yeah.
you know, that I can go into to just Rip Oliver, Danny Hodge.
Yes.
Man, Danny Hodge died on the same day as Brody did.
Yep.
Which and if you're not familiar with Danny Hodge, you know,
Get familiar.
yeah. For those of us who actually mat wrestled and Greco-Roman style, Danny Hodge was someone that we knew about. It's as if you go into football and you are trying to be a running back, you better have learned who Jim Brown and Walter Payton and Barry Sanders and these guys, Emmett Smith, Danny Hodge. If you want to wrestle, get to know him, because that man was as tough as they fucking come, and one of the most respected wrestlers. He was a wrestler.
Yes.
The person right now that I think of is, of course, Kurt Angle. Danny Hodge.
Mm-hmm.
If Danny Hodge would have had that platform to become a professional wrestler on the scale that Kurt Angle did, that would be the equivalent right there. Gerald Briscoe is another one. The Briscoe brothers, in fact, they were really good wrestlers before they got into the business. It's been a long year. I think we're all fucking fed up with 2020.
Yeah.
Facts.
I'm happy Drew took 2020 out in the commercial. That made me feel great.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I've got to say, out of all his matches this year, and yet he was still aided by 2021.
Right. Yeah. Technically, he didn't win that match.
Right.
That was all 2021.
Yeah. So
2020 just no sold the Claymores.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all we can ask for in this, next year, we're looking at it from the perspective of just wrestling. But today, Phil Necro, one of my favorite people, met him years ago as he was leaving Wrigley Field, and talked to him briefly, and was a great Hall of Fame picture. He passed away today at 81. Tom Seaver passed away. Al Kaline. There were a lot of Hall of Fame baseball players that passed away this year. How can we not say that this year sucked when we lost Kobe Bryant and Chadwick Boseman?
Right.
Yeah.
Again, going to the point of not knowing what someone like Chadwick, no one knew.
Mm-mm.
We never knew that this man was literally filming the last Avengers stuff while he was battling cancer. It's mind-blowing. I don't think that any of us ever expected to wake up, start our day, and then to have it be interrupted by something like hearing that Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 others passed away in a bad accident. It's these kind of things that it makes it sad, because we lose part of what makes us entertained, or takes us away from our problems. We don't think about their problems. We are able to sit here and go, you know what? He's not working as the Dark Order leader. It sucks. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's the worst thing since sliced bread. The truth of the matter is, we spend our lives as humans who are not in the public eye ripping or praising other humans who just happen to be the reason that we're able to deal with things, because we have distractions through the means of entertainment. And unfortunately, because of the fact that money is the driving factor in entertainment, right? And we always make the points about Vince McMahon and, how he doesn't do this or doesn't do that. The basis for that is because he wants to make more money, as anyone in that business should. And what happens is we lose sight of the fact that if you look at it, we forget that these guys are just, they're fucking human beings. We have perceptions based on what we think we know. And the truth of the matter is, it's funny that you kind of hit it with, Brody was one of those guys. He didn't get enough respect for it in the ring. He didn't have it really public knowledge about how he treated his family. And we now praise and can't, find the words because it's so tragic. And at the same time, too, you look at when Benoit, the truth came out about what he did, or when you hear about, a serial killer, or, the neighbor who people always say, oh, they were such a nice person or a quiet person, or we never would have expected. That just shows you, man, that whether it's good or bad, what we present to each other on the outside is a character. It's a facade. It's never who we truly are, because we need to protect that. We don't want to, we don't want everyone knowing our vulnerabilities. Could you imagine if someone knew that someone like that, like Brody, was such a family person, loved his wife and kids that much? A psychotic wrestling fan who saw something that maybe his character would have done and knew that information, now that family could be at risk.
Yeah.
These people take a lot of fucking risk. They risked, everyone risked COVID for just producing a television show in AEW and in WWE and in Impact and now ROH and in New Japan. Everyone is risking something by going out there. And you hear about those old stories about wrestling when you would be a heel and boy, you would be stabbed, shot at, shit being hit with, batteries and all this stuff, because of the fact that they were going out there to entertain a crowd that they knew they were putting their fucking life on the line.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you really don't have to necessarily worry about that because everyone kind of understands and it's a bigger arena. So when you look at what the sacrifice is for all of us in a year that we spent so much time at our houses, you have to just look at how invaluable that these performers are. As much as I say that I enjoy seeing Lana go through a table, I would never want to see her die.
Right.
Because that's not the point of what wrestling is. The point is that she's doing something right because she's making me feel that way.
Right. Absolutely.
So, that's it, man. And we're coming here on almost 2 hours, 10 minutes. It's 2020. So if we go 10 more minutes, we hit that 2020 perfectly, and we're out of here and we're done with 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job. Thank you, Matt, for that. Definitely appreciate it. And we we have a lot to be thankful for, and that's the main thing. One thing about when we have these holidays seasons, I know it gets looked at a lot of times that it's just the way to make money, and I'm sure in so many ways that's kind of how it was designed. But we also have to look at it that it's the time to also just be thankful that we are with our family, we're with our friends, we're with our loved ones, because the reality of it is that none of us never know when that's it, So we want to do our best to try to live our best life, which I think we all are doing, which a lot of these wrestlers we lost, we know what they were doing, and we'll continue to do that until that end comes. But speaking of now transitioning to the end of our final wrestling talk for 2020, we definitely want you to tune in to our show, which will take place Tuesday. We normally have a 3 count, but we're going to have an interview, good old Matt Michaels, with CWFH Hollywood Heritage Champion Jordan Clearwater.
Former.
He
honestly, last night, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because last night in the airing, first of all, congratulations. Championship Wrestling for Hollywood has been going for 10 years now.
Yeah.
And they, this past weekend and this coming weekend is their celebration of 500 episodes.
Wow. It's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy to think that, Dave has been able to sustain it from the Galaxy Theater, where we used to do UPW, is where they kind of started, and they've gone to different places over the years. But Jordan lost the title to a character. Well, he lost the title to I forget what they call themselves. One of the members of, I believe it's Beef Party or something close to that, off the top of my head. I forget what they call themselves, but he lost it because of a shot with the belt by a guy wearing regular face covering, which is kind of cool now that those are the go-to. Like, you can use face masks now as go-to. And when he revealed himself, he is a character that has been doing some vignettes as of late that are very psychotic. It's going to be a very interesting. His name is Jack Bannon, and this could be one step further than a Dexter Lumis. So if you don't watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, please look up the United Wrestling Network and give them a little follow. Listen to our interview with Jordan.
Yes.
He's got some talent, man. Dave recognized this, or else he wouldn't have the belt. And it's a pretty cool little interview.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, make sure you guys tune into that on Tuesday, and then of course on Wednesday, another DeFalco Files should take place again.
Yeah. And we have a pretty awesome guest. I don't think it's been officially revealed by Joe yet, so I'm not going to spill it. But it's someone who has a very interesting story, especially again, talking about 2020 being the year of just so much happening. We forget about the Speak Out movement, and this person had some realizations about his own life this year, so it should be a very captivating interview.
You guys, and if you're new to the podcast, all 200 and I think 63 now or up. Yeah, I would tell you, if anything, definitely go check out the DeFalco Files. We're up to about 36 or 37 episodes of that. They're really great. They're timeless. Just check them out. You will enjoy the stories that you get to hear from the FSW owner, Joe DeFalco, and a lot of the wrestlers that have who train there and have moved on to some of the bigger uh, leagues that we all enjoy, and some of the upcoming ones that we see that are on their way to those bigger promotions. So it's really great to check that out and take a listen to. So a lot of great things are happening this week. And of course, we will be back with Wrestling Talk. I just want to wish all of you all a happy New Year's. And I just want to personally thank everyone for continuing to listen to us. Believe it or not, this is our last show from 2020. But when you hear us live next week, it would be the start of our third year. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I never thought that we would have went this far. And there's a lot of podcasts that don't. And we thank you for just riding with us from the beginning, or even if you joined in the middle, or even if you're just joining now. We thank you for giving us a chance, and we do our best to keep it entertaining and enjoyable for you. And I guarantee 2021 is going to be another great year, just full of podcast memories for you. So that's how I'll leave it with you. I'm going to send it over to Sin City Steve for his final thoughts, and over to Matt, and we'll end the show. What you got, Sin? Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for embracing this new technology that we've kind of put into our arsenal this year.
Yes.
Doing the video chats through Zoom, and through Facebook Live and YouTube and all this kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for liking the videos, sharing them with friends and family, and subscribing to the channels, following us on social media. We are building a community, and that's an amazing thing to consider.
Yeah.
Without the support of each and every single person hearing my voice or seeing me speak right now, that wouldn't be possible. So thank you. I'd also like to give an extremely special shout out, especially during this time. We just got done with Christmas. We've got the new year rolling right around.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to all of the courageous men and women serving this country, both here in the US, but also on international soil as well. So Thank you for everything that you do. And I'd like to give, as always, a special shout out to our boy, the Stormin' Mormon, who did make it home. So thank you for your service. Thank you for getting home safe. And we'll see you very soon. And seriously, you guys are awesome. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this shit. So buckle up.
Absolutely. Matt Michaels.
I think that as much as we, mentioned the military, one of the things this year that I think we've realized is that we, as maybe a nation, maybe worldwide, it's the case too, we take for granted the services of our frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors, the firemen, the policemen. It always takes something that is essentially a pandemic or a tragedy to bring those people into light. And again, it's one of those things like entertainment we just never think of until we need it.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's something to remember to just try to be kind and help those in your community who might be battling a hard time here, being a frontline worker, as well as those people who have lost their job this year and are currently trying to find work, trying to feed their family, trying to avoid evictions. There's a lot going on that we can easily turn a blind eye to. And 2021, if anything, just make it a very neighborly year. Help everyone that you can if you have the means. Um, Also, coming from Vegas, Nashville strong, man. Stay strong. This is what a way to end, as we're going into the last week of the year, for just something as crazy as a fucking truck explosion with, you know, it's just just playing downtown and then having a message basically saying you have X amount of minutes, seconds to get the fuck out of here.
All right.
And to have something like that destroy people's houses, lucky families got evacuated quick enough, but they lost everything, man. Sometimes you just never know, again, what's behind a person's thought, a person's, objectives, and you just got to be there for each other, man. Because if you're not, if you're just out for yourself, man, then what are you in this for? If you're in it for yourself, man, there's no I in team. And I would say there's no I in America, but obviously there is an I in America.
There is.
So that analogy doesn't work.
No.
But there is a you in USA, and you have the choice and the ability to help your fellow neighbor out, and just be good to one another this year, please. It's going to be crazy enough with everything that's going on. Man, the last thing we need is more tragedy on top of trying to get out of this pandemic. So let's buckle down, and most of all, listen, if you need to stay in your house for a little bit now, that means that it's being done. So hopefully we can all go back to going to fucking events like normal, please, because I don't want to have to wait until 2026 to fucking see another live fucking concert or wrestling or,
Right.
just be aware, man. And at the least, wear a fucking mask. It doesn't hurt anyone. And listen.
And over your nose.
Yeah, seriously, right? And I know not everyone's going to agree that, this is a hoax. This is not a hoax, blah, blah, blah. Listen, what it comes down to is this. People have died from something that, at the very least, wearing a mask has shown that your odds of not passing it, not catching it, are at least better than if you're not doing it. And knowing the people that I've seen pass away this year, friends, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, we're all together in this, man. So why are we fighting it? Why are we fighting it? Just step up for humanity, man. It's just all of us trying to, it's fuck this pettiness of, they're telling us this, they're telling us that, it's this people, it's that people. No, it comes down to this, man. You have a responsibility. You're all human. And the people I'm looking at right now, my two brothers here on this screen, if one of them fucking dies from this because an asshole wouldn't put on a fucking mask, that's the person that I want to fucking see right now. Don't fuck with the people I love, because that's what you're doing.
Excellently said. With that, everyone, Happy New Year's, and we'll see you in a week. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, though, for Jordan Clearwater. Peace.